Hey there! I'm Al. I've got another time lapse for you. Before we get there, please subscribe, hit that like button. Let's do it. Alright, so as we dive in, as you know, I use the snake hook brush, probably the best way in Zbrush Core Mini to do this. Just pulling out some of those features, stretching out the jawline, and then clay buildup. I knew I wanted to do some sweet, like, dwarf beard awesomeness. So use clay buildup for that. Right there, I'm marking kind of the height where I think his ears should be, and I just looked up a reference, you know, the artist guide, where does the ears sit on the head? So I just marked those out, got the ear in. This was a prompt for Sculptober 2020, and the prompt was scratch. Honestly, I'm really far behind. I think this is my third one, and it's day 12 at this point. So I'm really just trying to hop around and do what I can. But I picked scratch, so I knew, all right, I want to do a dwarf, and he's just going to have scratches on his face. So nothing too creative, but still super fun. I spend a lot of time like fiddling with the ears, and I didn't have reference. I don't know why I didn't look up reference. I think the first ear that I made was honestly the best, and then end up doing it, erasing it, doing it, erasing it. I just didn't like it because it really sucked. But anyways, we're still in the valley of the suck, but we've got those orbital sockets in there, somewhat of a nose, and the idea, the impression of beard. This whole sculpt took me 1 hour and 15 minutes, roughly around there. It's really cool to see just what you can get done when you're in that flow state. Things are working well for you, and you have an idea and you just dive. Like, less thinking and more just kind of like doing. It's kind of autopilot a lot of times. But I wanted to start with his eyes open, and it just wasn't working. So I'm like, no. We will have the eyes closed like he's sleeping or something. It's still really rough. Just trying to work up those forms very slowly with that clay buildup brush, starting with a larger brush and then smaller brush to get those finer details. Same thing with the nose. I wasn't super happy with it, so I changed it, but I really enjoyed the nose at the end. I wanted his face to be very meaty, with these large folds of skin. Definitely an older dwarf. Big honking nose. Eventually I get there. Didn't feel very nosy. So one thing to keep in mind when you're sculpting is that it's wonderful to think about the face or the body in separate parts, right? I've got the eyebrows, the nose, the lips, but at some point you need to figure out how the skin, the fat, the cartilage interact with each other, right? So the nose, these wrinkles on the nose transition into wrinkles on the face. So this is especially true if you have a posed face. So if you change the lips, you're changing the cheeks, you're changing the nose, you're also changing the eyebrows. It's all one whole piece. I'm using clay buildup, making the kind of the illusion that there's some clumps there. And then you can see with the slash brush, I'm going in and kind of like feathering the lines of the clay buildup. And when you're doing hair, you always want to start like towards the bottom. So you'll notice I started at tips of the mustache and then worked my way up. That's just how the tool works. If I were to do it the other way, the hair would be laying wrong, but now the hair that's closest to the nose looks like it's laying on top of the other hair. So pro tip, keep that in mind. You'll notice that I really break up the silhouette kind of on the edges of the mustache and the beard. I use that slash brush and really just carve in because I don't want it to be round. I want it to have the feel that there's a jaggedness to the beard for that silhouette. Quite honestly, I was surprised how well I was able to use Zbrush Core Mini and the limited tools to do the hair. I wasn't looking forward to it, but it worked great. No problem. I'll probably do another hair video in Zbrush Core Mini at some point. And honestly, the most fun I had on this sculpt was I really dig the nose and then the hair. It was just fun. It was enjoyable. I was not looking forward to it in here. And ZBrush, it's cool. I can use alphas. I can use a couple different tools to help me out. But it turned out pretty great. So at this point, pulling out, trying to shape those main primary forms of the beard. And really, I could have worked harder on this stage, which would have made the beard even better, but I didn't. Remember, this was a quick sculpt. But pulling out some of those major forms with a snake hook, twisting and just kind of curving them around, make it kind of look like hair a little bit more. And I'm always rotating around my model. I check it from this side, check it from this side. You just saw from the side view, the front of the mustache was very flat. Didn't seem curved, like it curved around, you know, my teeth. So go in there and fix that, and any sculpt that I do, there'll be times where I'm like, how have I not gotten there? Or like, how have I not fixed this yet? But you look all over your model and just fix it from there. Another thing that you should probably do is not spend a whole lot of time in one area. You'll notice, right, I did some work on the eyes, but I still haven't finished the eyes. I had a really blocked out nose, went back, did some more of the nose. At this point, my mustache is almost finished, but I still need to come back to it. So the idea is to do most of your sculpt and then do it in passes. Let's do another pass, let's do another pass. Doesn't always work that way, but for the most part, that's pretty good practice to follow. So you see I go back to the eyes, and I'm working on some of those wrinkles, shaping those eyelids again. Honestly, sculpting elderly people is a lot of fun. Their faces are so expressive. They have so many different folds of skin and wrinkles. It's a blast to do, it really is. So if you've never sculpted an old person, definitely give it a go. And this dwarf, and as you can see, is an old guy, and eventually just this war-torn kind of battle dwarf. But one thing that I kept in mind, or tried to keep in mind, with this sculpt was just texture, right? And I don't mean like an image or texturing in Substance Painter, but it's just the texture of the clay. So my beard, I wanted it to be smoother than the skin. I wanted him to have this rough kind of texture to his skin. So if you look at the nose, it has that. I didn't go in and do pore details or anything like that, but I definitely didn't do much smoothing on the cheeks, on the eyelids, the nose, because that gives it just this rough kind of feel. And that's what I wanted his skin to feel like. That variation in texture really helps sell the illusion that I'm going for. I start with that bigger clay buildup brush, doing another pass. Same thing with the beard. I'm hitting those edges pretty hard with that slash brush. Going through there, making some of those valley points. This beard turned out pretty great. Like I mentioned before, I wish I would have turned off symmetry for this, but this was just a quick thing. And I'll go through and use clay buildup, beef up some of those strands of hair, clumps of hair, just slowly do another pass, another pass, another pass, and finally get to something that I really like. So at this point, definitely out of the valley, hitting some of those final touch-ups on the beard. I'm adding more polygons, that way I can get a little bit more detail. One of the things that I see new artists or sculptors doing wrong is that they want to rush to the finished product way too quickly. So start slow, and slow for you probably isn't slow for me, and slow for me is not slow for like a professional expert, which I am not. But just find that good pace and don't move on. Don't dive into those details until you've really nailed down some of those primary forms. That way you're headed in the right direction. Literally spend as long as you need to in that valley of the suck, pushing, pulling, making sure proportions are correct. Check your reference all over the place. And then, when you think you've nailed that down, move along and do another pass of your character, and then slowly start to add those details. One of the things about my personality is I really enjoy the process of things. I could care less about the end result most times, and it's more about just enjoying the sculpting process. So that is probably why I have so many unfinished projects on my hard drive, dozens of them. But I really enjoy the process, and sometimes I get a good result at the end, which is always good too. All right, we are almost done with this sculpt. So I turn off symmetry, I'm giving myself more polygons, and then with a slash brush, I just kind of come in here and make some of these scratches. Kind of just inflating the edges of those forms using clay buildup to simulate kind of like scarring and scar tissue that is built up in these places. After that, did some scratches on the nose. I think I ended up changing it. I didn't like the slash going the same direction as the scratches on the eyes, so I ended up changing it. So I'm finally shaping those eyebrows. Those eyebrows have been in block out form for basically the whole sculpt. I'm getting some of the meatiness on those brows. One thing that I totally forgot was eyebrows, but we're just gonna say this guy has shaved them off. I wanted some subtle wrinkles on the brow. People have these wrinkles. If your eyebrows are up, they're super intense, but this guy is more of in a relaxed kind of pose. Go back through, kind of smooth some of those out. I didn't want them super intense like the wrinkles on the face. So once again, more contrast there. My wrinkles aren't all the same depth or the same texture throughout the sculpt. Just add some variety. And now with symmetry off, again, coming through with that slash brush, just making some small variations in the beard. Definitely trying to break up that center line. It was very clear that I had symmetry on. And like I said, if I were doing this better, more professionally, I would have not turned on symmetry at all for any of the beard. So one of the things that I try to do with my characters is add those little details that tell more of a story. So the scratch on the eye, yes, it was for Sculptober, but it also tells a story, right? What did he battle where he got that scratch on his eye? What about the nick on his nose? And if I were to take this even further, there could be lots of those little bitty storytelling elements in your sculpt. Hey, thank you so much for watching my video. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and let me know in the comments below anything else you'd like to see. I will see you next time.